Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Baku 91's Legacy Showcase Challenge winning Rug Delver deck. This was actually a deck that split the finals, so there was technically two winners. The other deck was a mono-red sort of prison stompy style list, which I may play if I get time at some point in the next week or so, but I can't promise that. As for this deck, we've seen Delver before on the channel a fair bit. This build is slightly different. It's kind of building from the core of the deck that won the European Eternal Weekend, that was running Questing Druids with just a tropical island, a single one, to cast the backside. It was mainly using it for the front side, but it's nice to have a little bit of extra value sometimes. So this is doing the same thing. We've got less Questing Druids, but we've also got a full package of 4 Murktides. We've got a main deck Counterbalance, main deck Chain Lightning, main deck Pyroblast as well. So we've got some slightly interesting technology. Obviously, there's not the largest amount of wiggle room in Delver, but there's still innovations and changes that make a big difference because you get to see so much of your deck with the selection we have. I like Delver decks that run 8 1-drops. I've played some before, like some lists didn't have that, and it didn't really feel very good to me. I do like having the 8 1-drops and just being quite aggressive. It makes your Dazes and your Wastelands better because the more your opponent's under pressure, the better these tempo cards feel. I like the full 4 Murktides as well. That's pretty nice. As for the mana base, we've got 4 Volcanic Islands. We do have 1 island here, so we can play into our Blood Moon from the sideboard quite nicely when we want to, but most of the time we're just going to want to fetch non-basics, because if you've got 1 non-basic, you probably want to get another one so that you can't be wasted off of a colour anyway, but it's a nice tool that we can have for the sideboard matchups where we want the Blood Moon. Speaking of the sideboard, we've got basically all the things you'd expect. Although there is one thing that is suspiciously absent here, and that's Hydroblast. So we don't have any Hydroblast in here to deal with like the Turbo Muxus decks and the Red Prison-y style decks. But we've got Force of Negations, Counterbalance, Submerge, a little bit more removal and Unholy Heat, a whole bunch of Pyroblasts, a couple of Meltdowns, a couple of Blood Moons, and some Graveyard Hate. So we've got a smattering of different tools that can come in different ways and get some work done. I don't really think I have much more to say about this one. Let's just get into the games and play some good old-fashioned... Well, not so much old-fashioned. This is like the newest tech, I suppose. But let's play some Delver. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, welcome to round 1. We've already been kind of set back by our own one-of island a little bit this hand. I don't particularly want to keep this hand. We don't have any early pressure. We don't have any cantrips to find pressure. We're just going to mulligan. This one is better than the last one, but not by an enormous amount. We'll keep this. We'll throw back a Bauble. We already have 1 for the purposes of Delirium. So we're going to be trying to Portent to set things up. It's going to give our opponent a little bit of information about the sort of thing we're trying to accomplish. A Goblin Lackey. Okay, so we're probably going to be Lightning Bolting this Lackey instead. Understood. Right, we will Bauble ourselves first, so we know if we want to use a fetch land or a non-fetch land here. So what's the top card of our library? A Misty Rainforest. We do not want to draw that, so we will use a fetch land here. Get that free scry going. We'll go and get this Volcanic Island. We will Lightning Bolt this Lackey, and we'll move on with our lives. So we could see something as potent as a Muxus this turn, which could be worrying. So they've got a Soul Land into Sticker Goblin into Muxus. We're going to have a bad time. I think that's probably just the game there. And I did mention right at the start that we do not have access to Hydroblast on our sideboard. And this is definitely a matchup where we would like them. Now, I'm not sure if our opponent is on the Turbo build. The fact that they've got the Scalding Tarn probably means they're on the build with like vials and stuff like that instead. War Marshal. So this build has more of a toolbox element, but isn't as fast. But can still do some of those sort of broken starts that do some pretty gross things. So we have to be a little bit careful here. So if we play out this Dragon's Rage Channeler, if we Portent now, we can't Lightning Bolt a Sticker Goblin, and then they can play a Muxus. So we have to hold back here with our red source so that we can Lightning Bolt if we need to. It's a shame, but this will be, we can Portent next turn, so this will be a 3/3 on attacks anyway. Because we've got Artifact, Land, and Instant, and this will be the Sorcery. But this just stops us getting killed by a Sticker Goblin this turn. Yep, we can afford to take 1 here. Munitions Expert is one of the cards that draws people to playing this particular build. And there it is. So this puts us in an interesting spot. If we want to keep our Dragon's Rage channel alive, we can Lightning Bolt, and if we flip something for this, then we're going to be okay. But that does cost us our Lightning Bolt, which might have better targets. But if we don't have any pressure, our opponent will just run us over. So I think we have to go for this and see if we can surveil this guy to being alive. Brainstorm is not it, unfortunately. Okay, so we're going to put this on top of our library, I guess. And we're going to lose our channeler. Yeah, that's all, because they've still got 2 goblins here. Not quite as we drew it up. But we can probably fix our hand a little bit with a Brainstorm here. Alright, deck. Let's get rid of this Counterbalance. It does nothing here. And I guess we're probably getting rid of a land. We want to keep 1 land to shuffle. Let's crack this now. Let's play our creature. That's Portent targeting us. Right, a Questing Druid is pretty good. I think we can put this on top of our library. Pyroblast is no good though. So if we put the Pyroblast down at the bottom, and then the island. Actually, I probably want the Questing Druid so that we draw the island. So at the beginning of our opponent's next turn, we'll draw the island. On our turn, we'll draw the Questing Druid, and then when we cast the Seek the Beast, we can mill that Pyroblast into the graveyard. Even though our opponent's just got 2 1/1s, I do feel quite far behind here. Now, our big Murktide would go a long way to fixing this up for us. Stick a Goblin. Alright, things could get real bad for us here. This could be Uncounterable Muxus. And then that's probably game. 6 mana. It's going to be an Uncounterable Broadside Bombardiers. That's equally terrible for us. So, what do? We take a bunch here. So, we've got no cards in hand, but they are tutoring for something delicious to mash our face in with. Another Broadside Bombardiers. That's pretty good. So, they can attack. This puts us in an awkward position in terms... Okay, they're just going straight for it. I was going to say, because if we block here, they can stack the other one to do it. But we're going to need running Lightning Bolts here. Are we better off Brainstorming than we are Druiding? I think we probably are here. Oh, the problem is we know there is 1 card that we don't want on top, but we kind of have to draw through it. We don't get the Surveil anymore. Do I think these cards make a difference? We definitely don't want this Pyroblast. This Daze doesn't do anything either. No, I don't think we can win this one. I think we'll just save our time and go to the next game. We know there's another Broadside Bombardiers that we can't counter coming off the top. I would like a removal spell in the form of Unholy Heat, please. And then the rest of our tools don't look very good here. Do we think they're running Chalice out of the board? Like Pyroblast becomes Unholy Heat. That's an easy trade. Counterbalance, I'm not really a fan of in this matchup. So that gives us room for a Meltdown. And then we have to decide if we want an additional Meltdown or not. And what would we sideboard out? Like, our counter spells are not good for the most part. But if we can leverage Wastelands on their caverns, they can maybe do them. So I think this is probably about as good as it gets. Our mana is not being our friend there. I think we'll mulligan this one so we can actually cast some spells. This casts a spell, but then we just have a bunch of lands. But any Brainstorm unlocks this hand. I think we're better off keeping this than going to 5. But it's pretty sketchy. Yeah, not a massive lover of this one. So we're going to throw back this one. We will be using all of our fetch lands for the purposes of getting our Murktide Regent just some fuel in the graveyard, because we want to be able to cast that as soon as we can. We're not going to play around Blood Moon. We can do with a later fetch land, but we just want to make sure that we can cast our spells for now. They've shown us that they're not the accelerate-y build. They're not playing like Chrome Mox and stuff. They've probably got Ether Vials instead. Let's have a look with our Delver of Secrets. Because we can float a fetch land and play and use this as a scry next turn. Mishra's Bauble. That's not the one, is it? Alright, so we get some amount of options of trying to flip our Delver next turn. So we can look at our own card, decide if we want it, and if it flips Delver, and then we can marshal our resources how we want. Okay, they're just Pyroblasting our Delver. Okay, so we're just going to use the Mistress Bauble as a scry effect now. We're not going to be able to flip our Delver. Yikes. Cavern Souls, that shuts off any potential counter spells we may draw. Chalice of the Void where X equals 1. Yeah, that's fine. We do have the Meltdown that we brought in specifically for the Chalice. Right, let's see what we got on top of our library here. A Ponder. I will leave that on top of our library. So this has to be X equals 2. Otherwise we'll get counterspelled by the Chalice. Sorry, X equals 1. Otherwise it'll be countered. So you have to pay 2 mana, otherwise it gets countered by the Chalice. We can Ponder now, or we can hold up a Lightning Bolt. A Lightning Bolt saves us in the face of a Sticker Goblin from really popping off this turn. So I think that's probably what we have to do here. And then just have another Chalice. That's annoying, but we can then play a... Okay, that's fine. We can then play the Murktide pretty soon. There is a Wasteland. Okay, that's fine. Right, it's keeping their mana down, which is fine. Right, Dragon's Rage Channeler. That's a pretty good find here. I will fetch this and cast a Ponder here. Or I'm casting a Ponder. I believe that we're going to find a land here. We got 4 looks. Sorry, Dragon's Rage Channeler. Interesting. We can take our opponent off of a cavern. That's pretty interesting to me. And we can draw a Delver next turn and it will definitely flip. Pretty reasonable. Just shut this cavern off. No uncounterable spells for you. Now we don't have any counter spells now, but our opponent doesn't know that. So they're going to be more inclined to try and grind the value out with this Vial, but then hopefully the 3 threats we have in total lined up should be good. No land from our opponent there. That's excellent. Let's bash for 3 here. Let's jam his Delver. We know it's going to flip next turn to the Brainstorm. And then we can get ahead of all the damage our opponent's going to have. Let's pop our graveyard out quickly and have a look at the types we have. So we're going to be knocking ourselves off Delirium if we play this Murktide Regent. We will reveal this Brainstorm. Let's just Brainstorm first. We have a Lightning Bolt if they have something like an Orcish Bowmasters here. A Force of Will is fine, considering they don't have anything, but they have this Ether Vial. I think we're just going to put this into our graveyard right now. Just power out the big Murktides. I don't mind this Wasteland. We can just do back-to-back Murktides, and that will do quite a lot of work. Our opponent's probably got a Pyroblast, so we make this first one smaller. Which means, are we doing it like this and playing a Murktide now? That takes us off of Lightning Bolts. If we want to do double Murktides, we have to do this and then not crack our fetch land. Which I think is fine. Like, we have 6 power on board. We've got a Lightning Bolt, which does a lot of work for us. We can play a big Murktide. Right, what's this going to be? Mog War Marshal, I guess. Yeah, okay. That's not a thing that we have to worry about just yet. Now that we've seen the Chalice, we can board in the second Meltdown as well. Now we know it's definitely in there. And the Dazes get worse on the draw. Provided we win this game, obviously. We can still lose from here. Alright, what have you got? Sticker Goblin. Right, so you bolt this. Its trigger, it has to be in play for its trigger to work. So the top card of our library is a Murktide Regent. Okay, they're scooping up from there. Sure. Okay, so we want this other Meltdown. We want to take out one of our Dazes. I don't think we have any other things that are good enough to board in here. Like Counterbalance. Counterbalance versus Daze. Daze works for our Delver for flipping it. It also works for our Channeler. Obviously the Channeler works with the Counterbalance too, I suppose. But the Daze works with our Delver for flipping it. It's a card that goes into our graveyard to power up Murktide Regents, which is quite important in this matchup because we need to have the biggest thing on the board. So I think we are just going to go back in with what we have here, just an additional Meltdown for Vials and the Chalice. We've got a threat, a piece of removal. Now, these are definitely things we want. I don't think we can throw this one back, but it's not ideal. I'd rather have less lands, but if we mulligan this and get the same 6-card hand, then that's probably fine. It just gives us more resources to use Brainstorm goodness. A Lackey. I guess we have to kill the Lackey. We're going to save the Mishra's Bauble so that we can use it with the Dragon's Rage Channeler to get a little bit more extra value. We can also combine it with a fetch land and we get to see quite a lot of cards. Another Lackey. Okay. We're going to see a third Lackey? No. So this is going to be a Pyroblast that's being held up, I believe. A Brainstorm. Alright, let's play a Channeler. Play a Bauble. Polluted Delta, that can go into the graveyard. Let's have a look at the top card of our library and see if we want to play a fetch or not. A Meltdown. That's kind of an awkward one because we don't know if we're going to want that or not. Interesting. If we leave that on top though, we can Brainstorm, put it into our graveyard. This becomes a 3/3 and we can block and kill the lackey. I think I messed this up. I was supposed to do this when our opponent was tapped out because now we're just going to get hit by the black-red creature. This can go into the graveyard. Yeah, my timing on this was not great. Should have done this on my turn. Wasteland, Ponder, Bauble. I like this Wasteland. I guess we can just put 2 fetches because we're going to draw one next turn anyway. It's acceptable. No, actually, we're going to draw them both, aren't we? Alright. Sticker Goblin? No, Matron. What spooky goblin are we going to find? Sticker Goblin. Okay. Going to need to do something about that. Ponder is probably our first port of call here. Force of Will. So we can try and force the thing that comes out. We can also Wasteland the Cavern. So we'll leave this on top. 2 Force of Will. So we don't want this land. We'll take the forces. So what we have to do here is we have to use our Questing Druid to put a force into exile. Which I think is acceptable for us. So the force is the top card. And then it's the land. So we could have stacked it slightly differently and milled the land with this, playing this Bauble. Probably intrigued why we haven't Wastelanded their Cavern of Souls. But we do need the mana to try and counter something here. So they can play the Sticker Goblin off of these 3 mana and we can counter it. So you're going to want to save the Cavern of Souls to actually cast the Muxus. Right, no. We're just going for the Sticker Goblin first. So we get to counter whatever they play off of the Sticker Goblin. Or at least that's the hope. 4. So they've low rolled, so they can't put Muxus into play. A Battle Cry Goblin. That's pretty good. So we're going to seek the Beast here. It will get to hit us with Goblin Lackey, unfortunately. It's one problem at a time, right? Dragon's Rage Channeler. It's another threat. Probably fine. We're kind of looking for Murktide, but I don't think we can throw away that Channeler with the selection it gets us with this Bauble. Okay, they've got a Pyroblast. Sure. So they have enough to play this and activate it. Yep. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's half our life total gone. Not a big fan of that. Oh no, there's one more as well because I get the bonus goblin. So yes, so that's 11. That's more than half our life total. Alright. Okay, a Matron. So they can get a Matron now and get a Muxus for next turn. They don't even need that. They probably just get Bombardiers here. That's probably the best thing they can find. So they can play an uncounterable Bombardiers and just come at us. Yep, there it is. Yep, so we're going to have not a lot of chance to win this game. Is it worth playing out a Questing Druid here? I think it's probably acceptable. Just to get another body on board. Tropical Island. Cast this. It has to be the Wasteland we tap here because of how we're playing the rest of the turn. We're looking to try and get ourselves some kind of removal. Murktide Regent is too little too late here. We need a Lightning Bolt. Okay, Chain Lightning is not good enough either. Right? Oh, it's a sorcery. Yeah, we don't have anything here. We can't beat what they've got going on. The Bombardiers alone kills us, I think. Alright, yeah, we felt like we were a dog in that matchup the whole time. This deck has a lot of grinding power and we just can't really overcome that. So, our hands weren't great and we did have to mulligan a bit as well. Oh well, on to round 2. Island Ponder is fine, we've got a bit of protection here. We should be able to find a threat within the first turn or 2. We'll keep this one. So this is one of those situations where maybe we're supposed to go and find that basic island. Because we're not having a threat that we can throw down. It does make our second Polluted Delta worse. No, I think we are supposed to get a basic, a non-basic here. If they Wasteland us later, then we get Wastelanded off colours. This way they can't Wasteland us off our colours. Alright, Delver of Secrets, Ponder, Tropical Island. So we can put Ponder on the bottom, then a Delver, then a Trop. We'll draw the Trop. Next turn we play the Delver. Turn after it flips. Street Wraith. Okay, so probably on some sort of Stalactite Stalker list, would be my assumption. Let's just see if we can give them a good thorough delvering. Play this Tropical Island out. We don't care if this one gets wastelanded. It gives our opponent a chance to make a mistake. It is our only green source, but we so rarely need the green mana in this deck. Consider. Okay, so we're looking at Doomsday then. I see. We have a pretty good hand for doing some stuff against Doomsday. We have access to a lot of counter magic. A Dark Ritual. A Doomsday. I would like to counterspell this. I will pitch... I think I'll pitch the Brainstorm because we know we've got a cantrip on top of our library. We might need to fight with 2 Dazes here. Alright. Let's do some Daze action. So we float here so we can beat an opponent's Daze. Just set everything back to square one, where they have to find their pieces whilst we're beating down with a 3-2. That's the plan here. Alright. It worked. So now we flip our Delver to the Ponder that we set up. I think it was a Ponder. Yes. Right. We have ourselves a threat. We don't need to worry about Wasteland now. We would like to try and find like another Daze or some sort of interaction. This is interesting. I don't really want this Pyroblast that much. It's okay, but not incredible. So we put the Chain Lightning, then the Channeler, then the Pyroblast. Like, Pyroblast can hit cantrips and stuff. Or personal tutors. Like, the Chain Lightning is fine. But I think it's better to stop our opponent from doing their thing rather than clock a little harder. After next turn, they basically won't be able to do pass a turn lines, which makes things a lot more difficult for them. And it also makes our Pyroblast better, because it means they're going to need a cantrip to go off. And then we can float the Chain Lightning on top, and if we need that to win 1 turn quicker, we can. If not, we can shuffle away and Pyroblast to make us not lose. A Ponder, sure. They chose not to shuffle off that Ponder. Play this out. Attack for 3. Right, so we have a sorcery on top of our library. So they are dead next turn if we don't have to Pyroblast. But we have a Pyroblast to make it to our next turn. When the Pyroblast doesn't give us Delirium actually, does it? We're still 1 shy. And it's going to be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we'll be 2 points short actually. Our opponent's cast a Doomsday. So they have to win on this turn. So in theory, our Pyroblast should be pretty important. Right, they've done quite a quick pile here. Let's see what they've got here. Piles of the Dead, what is that? That's Cavern of Souls, okay. So they don't have... Unless they have 2 Cavern of Souls. Right. So what have we got here? Got Bolt, question mark, Daze, question mark. We'll find out in a second. I don't think they're going to be very happy about this Pyroblast, but that's what we have. Alright, they didn't have a Daze to throw back at us there. So, this matchup. I would like some Force of Negations and Counterbalance. Blood Moon is also very good in this matchup. Pyroblasts have text, but aren't incredible. But they have text. Surgical Extraction is also something we can play. Pyroblast can help us fight over some stuff. So we want all our counter spells. We don't really need bolts and things here. I don't mind having Pyroblast to try and force through something like a Blood Moon. I think the Portent can probably go. That is a clean 60. Do we want to change any of these things around? Other tools we might want include these, but we would have to lose something in the process. I don't think we want to lose our pressure. We don't really want to lose our cantrips and delirium enablers. We don't want to lose any counter spells. Like, the only thing we could possibly trim here would be Murktide Regent or a Questing Druid. So, Questing Druid can help us dig into some more answers. Murktide Regent is going to be one of our quickest ways of clocking if we sort of just have a big fight over stuff and the dust settles. So I think we're just going to go in like this and we don't have room for the additional Pyroblasts. Their key spell is not blue, it's blacks as well. So, and the Surgical Extractions only work if we win the first fight anyway. So I think this is alright. Right, we have counter spells and a threat. This is classic Delvering. We have the same amount of counter spells that we had last time. Opponent's beginning on Ponder, so we're going to at least have a little bit of room to breathe and not have to be trying to stop something on turn 1. So our Dazes get turned on. Well, one of our Dazes gets turned on. Oh, I have just... I I've just yielded through my turn by accident there. Whoops. So we have to lose one of these cards. I think we're going to chuck the Questing Druid. It puts a creature in the graveyard. But that is an awkward one. Alright, let's have our first turn like we were supposed to. Okay. Let's get ourselves a Dragon's Rage Channeler and begin assembling an offensive plan. It's been a while since I've accidentally skipped through my whole turn, but there we are. How do I feel about this Bowmasters? It's pretty annoying. I think it's worth a Daze. A Blood Moon. If we put that into the graveyard, our creature will be big enough to survive. I think let's put this into our graveyard. Even if this Daze doesn't resolve, our creature will be a 3/3. We only have one counterspell for this turn though. So if they have some sort of ritual or Lotus Petal, they might be able to put a Doomsday on the stack. Another Ponder. Sculpting their hand. That was a very quick shuffle from our opponent. I thought Seize. Yep, you can take a look. It's a pretty stacked hand. But taking the Force of Will means it's just a Daze to play around unless we can Brainstorm into something. So there goes our Force of Will. We do have Force of Negation, so I think it is worth trying the Brainstorm out here. I think that is better than playing the Wasteland. Let's go attacks. We can Brainstorm to protect other stuff if we need to. From follow-up Thought Seizers. There is a Ponder. I'll be firing this Brainstorm off regardless because we want to try and hit the second blue to put this Counterbalance into play. And that gives us a lot of free looks at stopping our opponent's plan. I chose not to shuffle with that Ponder. A Lion's Eye Diamond from our opponent. Okay, so we're going to see a Shouldered the Apocalypse here. I'm going to cast my Brainstorm in response. Polluted Delta can go into... I kind of want this. We need a Murktide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I'll put this on top. Our Daze is not going to help us out here. So what are we trying to play next turn? We're trying to play 2 threats, which means we want to flip our Delver in 2 turns. So we put the Daze on top and then the Wasteland. Play 2 threats. No, we have to shuffle, don't we? Is the problem. The Wasteland is good here. Maybe it's the Questing Druid that goes. Well, there is a threat. It's probably better than the Daze, actually. Okay. We're going to have to try and race this Shouldered. Not a great position to be in. Let's go attacks. And we could get a Trop here. I think that might be worth doing, actually. So we can cast a Delver off the Trop and then a Channeler off your Delver. Channeler. And we can play the Questing Druid as a chump blocker. Hopefully we can get in for 9 next turn, 9 the turn after, and that will be enough. That is our plan, though. Oh, wait, no, because I gained 2 life. 9, 9, 18. No, that should be fine. If we can get in for 9 twice, that's okay. We take 6, then we take 6 the next turn, then we kill them. Oh, Polluted Delta, though. That's not what we wanted. Casting this Counterbalance gives us some looks here, doesn't it? I think it's worth casting. See if we can set up this Delver for next turn. Force of Negation. That does work with the Delver. But we don't want to draw this. We do have a fetch land we can play. I think we do this just to flip the Delver. It was also 3 for purposes of Doomsday, but I'm not really considering that as where the game is taking us right now. So we play out this. Go attacks. This is 7. So our opponent goes to 6. They go to 8 this turn. So if we flip our Delver, we do win the game here. I've done the maths. And we draw this because if we have the Force of Negation in hand, they can't cast any non-creature spell. Okay, so we managed to get there. That was tough. We did skip our first turn, which made it a lot tougher than it had to be. But I really like Delver into matchups like Doomsday because you have pressure and you have disruption. And you have multiple lines of disruption. You have counter magic and you have wastelands. All right, let's go to round 3. This hand is okay. It's good against creatures. Struggles a bit into some of the combo-y stuff. but we shall see what transpires. I'm going to try really hard not to skip my first turn as well. A mountain. There's a matchup where these lightning bolts are probably going to be pretty good. So if they're prison, we're definitely wanting to get our creature down first. If they're goblins, then we're going to be annoyed that we didn't hold up a lightning bolt for sticker goblin. But maybe they don't roll 6. Lightning bolt. Okay. Could be painter as well. But I think they're more likely to have more permanents in play by now. If they were painter. Okay, let's fix our hand with a brainstorm. I guess we've got a lot of lands in hand. Put some of these back. Mountain, lightning bolt. That is an odd start to a game of Legacy. Mountain, lightning bolt. Okay, I think we're just going to race to Murktide here. They could be burned and they're just slow rolling us a little bit here, which is fine. We don't want this. Brainstorm isn't amazing. It's fine, but not incredible. I'm going to go any order and shuffle. Force of Will. I'd rather not have to pitch our Murktide Regent, so that's our plan here. Are they... what are they up to? Ancient Tomb, okay. Fail the Mirror Breaker. So they are painter. Counterbalance is certainly an interesting one here. We could play the Counterbalance and hold up Lightning Bolt, or we could play Murktide Regent and hold up Force of Will. 1, 2, 3, 4. We crack this. That's 5. Now, our opponent's deck is famous for running an awful lot of Pyroblasts. So let's hope we can dodge that. I think I would Force of Will to protect our Murktide at this point, because we don't really have anything else going on. We've got a couple of removal spells. We can start firing at creatures. Yep, there's a painter. A red elemental blast. Hate this, but I think it's correct. There's a painter. Chosen black. Okay. Let's lightning bolt this guy. He's got 2 cards in hand. Are we more interested in killing the Shaman token, or are we more interested in killing the Fable? This is their only source of artifacts for the purposes of Welder right now. This is obviously something that's a little bit scary, and they can probably fire this back at us. I think we're just going to kill their Shaman token here. I think we're going to keep 2 cards in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm and representing Force of Will blue card. Khan the Great Creator. Okay. What would you like to find? Thorn of Amethyst. Alright, that's not too much of a problem right now. A Wasteland. That's not very exciting. I think we have to attack the Khan here. I'm going to save a Wasteland for the... as a Saga that's probably in our opponent's deck. We will play out a land in case we need to be casting multiple spells under a Thorn of Amethyst. It's good to get the lands down now. Painted Servant. We name black, sure. So now I can copy this Painted Servant as well, so it's going to be difficult for us to get around. We can start Wastelanding here to make it more difficult for them to play underneath their own Thorn. So I think we take out their city here, so they have to at least tap their Ancient Tomb if they're casting a spell. If we played out the Wasteland last time, we could have taken off the ability to play Grindstone. They have another mana source, they can Grindstone and Painter this turn. If they have a Soul Land, they can do that whilst holding up the copy from the Reflection of Kikijiki. Don't think our opponent has an obvious line to kill us this turn, because they've taken a little while thinking. Goblin Engineer. Okay, so our opponent has gone to a low life total here, where Murktide Regent will kill in 1 hit. So they've got an Ensnaring Bridge in their deck, I think. No? They do have an Ensnaring Bridge, yeah. So what they're going to do is they're going to weld in the bridge, but we can't attack with our Murktide Regent. They can attack for a little bit of damage if they want to with the Painter. They decided against it. Force of Will is not going to cut it here. We can Wasteland them and try and take them off of enough mana to play their Grindstone and activate it. So they need to have another mana source here. Unless they've got Lion's Eye Diamond in their deck. Alright, they have the mana source. So they should be able to just get the Grindstone in and kill us at their leisure. So they can copy this, they can weld it, they can do what they want, really. Yep, and that's the game. Tough versus the old Pyroblast deck. So, Pyroblast mean that our Force of Wills aren't actually very good in this matchup, which is a shame. Counterbalance seems alright here. Surge Extractions and the Blood Moons also seem good. Unholy Heat is nice too, and I don't really want these other things. I don't mind having a Daze too much. The Pyroblast is bad. That can get out. What are we trimming? It's probably a Daze. And we're going to be relying on removal and counterbalances. A little bit of graveyard hate to mess with their welders. You could keep in some forces here, but I really hate playing forces into the 8 Pyroblast deck. Okay, this is reasonable. We've got a threat that we can try and set up using our Bauble. And then we've also got a little bit of disruption with the Dazes. And we can hopefully land a Murktide. Murktide obviously not at its best versus the 1,000,000 Pyroblast deck. But we do what we can. Delver. His Bauble. We pass, we crack it in our opponent's turn, targeting our library. And then we can have a look. And then we can stack the triggers the right way to try and have 2 chances of flipping the Delver. A Lotus Petal. Bauble. This is good enough to counterspell. They're using Seaman Spirit Guide to pay for this. So kind of our library here. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Okay. So we want to draw off the Bauble before we do the Delver. So Delver goes on the bottom and then the Bauble goes on top. We draw the Dragon's Rage Channeler. We have another chance of flipping this. We do not flip it. Alright. We are behind now. That Seaman Spirit Guide doing a lot of work. On the plus side, they do have an Ancient Tomb, so that's going to help us a little bit with our damage. But our opponent is quite... Whoa, Portal to Phyrexia. We lose all our guys, they get a load of guys. That doesn't seem like a good situation for us. They start wordering this in, I'm not going to have a great time. The Dazes get a lot worse now they have treasure. We fire off this Daze if we have any reasonable targets for it at this point. Alright. What about this time, Delver? No. Okay. Let's just hit their lands, I guess. And attack for a small amount of damage. Now, they are just ahead on board with what we have, but maybe we can flip some stuff. We've got 3 types for the purposes of Dragon's Rage Channeler. A nice Daze might set us off for Delirium. Or we could, you know, draw a Ponder, which will flip the Delver and flip the Channeler. Daze. I guess I'll reveal the Daze. Would love a Daze target. Just to fuel our Murktide. And get a shot at doing this. Like, this Daze is pretty much blank cardboard right now, but it can mill us for 1 and do some other work. Alright. Saga. And a Welder. Oh, that's pretty good, isn't it? I'll put this on top of our library. So the problem we have here is that they can just copy this Welder and put in a Portal to Phyrexia. And let me tell you, we're not winning from Portal for Phyrexia here. Yikes. We'll just do, at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Okay. So, the plan here is Bolt the Welder. Just from any graveyard. Hold on. From a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Okay, so I think we're supposed to bolt this Reflection of Kikijiki. Is that right? That stops them from double tapping this in a turn. But if we kill the Welder, they get it back with Portal, then they copy it. So I don't know how I'm supposed to beat this, if I'm being perfectly honest. So we'll get rid of our 2 creatures, and then we'll get rid of these spells. So next turn, they cycle this Portal away, and then they can cycle it back again. Whereas if we leave them with the Fable guy, they get to do it every turn. So what are we trying to do now? We can't melt down Portal for Phyrexia. If we kill the Welder now, that's good. This is not our spot for this Daze. We're not trying to fill up our graveyard anymore. Another Welder, that's terrible news. That is some real terrible news. Alright. I don't think Daze in there makes much difference. We need Surgical or something. Delver of Secrets. You aren't really the one, are you? Oh, this is going to be savage. It's going to pour Phyrexia us over and over again. So this turn, they take it away with the Welder. On their turn, they bring it back. So we don't want to play our threat this turn. We want to play it the turn after, but then they can also just bring back our... Oh, they didn't? That's interesting. They didn't weld it out end of turn. I guess they can do it both this turn anyway if they want to. And this way that they're not as exposed. Okay, they're floating mana off of the thing. They also just have the Grindstone kills if they want it. We are dead in so many ways. GG's opponent, you absolutely smashed us to pieces there. I would always prefer to be on the Delver side of this, personally. I think just playing 8 Pyroblasts in a deck against Delver is just not a bad place to be. Alright, let's go to round 4. We're currently 1 and 2. We're on the play. Our hand doesn't really go anywhere, so we're going to have to mulligan. We need like a turn 1 Ponder or a threat. This is kind of okay. We can play a slightly more controlled game. We have a Brainstorm to fix on turn 2. One of these cards has got to go. It's probably going to be the Bauble. It's one of the harder types to get in your graveyard for Delirium. But I think we're better off having access to all these lovely blue spells. And we control a bit of stuff. Then we play a Murktide Regent, and that wins the game. That's the plan. Mossfire Valley. Interesting. Mishra's Bauble. So it came back again. This does not tap for mana on its own. So our opponent cannot do anything too sketchy right now. Alright, I think I'm going to Brainstorm. Alright, this is kind of rubbish. I don't mind having another land, but it's not particularly exciting. Better than a Bauble? Probably not. We do have to crack here if we want to shuffle away those cards though. Throes of Chaos. Alright. We know what our opponent's up to now. A Ponder. Okay. It's going to be drawing a new blue card. I wonder if they're a weird flavour of Throes of Chaos or they're just going to be 2 Mossfire Valleys. That's not what I was expecting to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we don't have enough here. Let's cast a Ponder. Let's find us a land. We can put Murktide into play. Does not find us a land. I'm going to go any order and shuffle. A Wasteland. That was a good card in this sort of matchup. Just take out a Mossfire Valley. I think so. Gives our opponent access to 4 mana next turn with a Soul Land. And I think we will fire off this Ponder. Okay, this is fine. So we'll put this and then the Channeler, and then we'll keep the Force of Will just so we have maximum protection. Alright. So you can play a Murktide and then start developing with a Channeler once we've got the Murktide in play. Sandstone Needle, sure. The other option here is to play the Channeler. How many? 1, 2, 3. So we can have a 6/6. That's 4 turns. That is where we need to be here, isn't it? We need to try and get this game won whilst we can. Okay. So our opponent is very likely to cast Throes of Chaos this turn. But we have the counter spell for the Tybalt's Trickery. We can probably snap a Daze off because we might be able to draw a blue card. Okay, we can't snap a Daze off now, right? We have 5 mana, so it's going to have to be Force of Will pitching Daze. Creative Technique. They're demonstrating it. Okay, so we get our copy first, right? Delver of Secrets. I guess we play the Delver of Secrets. And I will Force of Will this, pitching Force of Will. Then I will Daze the other copy. Now, we know our opponent's got Throes of Chaos, so they can go again. Right, so let's play a Channeler. Start looking for some better cards. Into Graveyard, please. We could draw a Daze here, so I think we are incentivized to fire this now, even though it's not ideal. Volcanic Island, okay, that's terrible. So our opponent just gets a free turn to do their thing. And they should be able to kill us, because they only really need to cast 1 spell. Maybe they don't have a Creative Technique or a land or something. Maybe their Throes of Chaos whiffs. There's options here for us to not lose the game. They are few and far between, sadly. But we have them dead next turn. Throes of Chaos. So this will hit Tybalt's Trickery. Oh no, Violent Outburst, sure. This will hit Tybalt's Trickery. I think I played against this version the other day and our opponent got very unlucky. What does this do? It cascades a bunch and then we lose a load of stuff, right? Trumpeting Carnosaur. Or just F6 this turn and see how bad it is. We have a Daze. We kind of want less cards in our library in case they demonstrate some other stuff. So we're more likely to draw things that make a difference, but seems unlikely. Alright, so they hit a Tybalt's Trickery with their Creative Technique. Okay, this is pretty bad news for us. This is going to be... we need to actually read what this one does. Cascade, Cascade. Deals damage to each creature your opponents control equal to the total mana value of other spells you've cast this turn. So they're going to kill all of our creatures by an enormous amount. That's pretty savage. Yeah, so this turn they're going to kill all our guys and put some big things into play. We're not going to be that. We can scoop that one up. We've seen enough of their deck now as well. Okay, so we would like counter spells. Counterbalance, not actually very good here. Pyroblast, probably not great. Blood Moon is quite handy. And so Extractor, we can deal with their first round and we can kind of have a bit more joy. Right, so we get rid of those. Get rid of the Chain Lightning. And then we're looking to cut one more card. Counterbalance doesn't seem great in this matchup. Their things cost a lot. Okay, I guess that's what we're working with. No, let's mulligan this one. Force of Negation and Ascetic Attractions are not great, but we have a Wasteland. I would like to keep the hands of Wastelands in. I think that probably means the Bauble goes. That's not a very exciting one here. Maybe it should have been the Murktide, actually. Let's play this one out. No, we need the Murktide for the blue card. That's what I kept it. Yeah, okay. Alright. I did make the right decision. If we counter the first Throes of Chaos, we can stop it for good as well with the Force of Negation. It's quite tasty. So we don't actually care about Throes of Chaos this turn because of the Force of Negation. So the idea is we let them throws this turn. I guess we hit the Tibot's Trickery, don't we? Alright, but this turn we can then fire off our Questing Druid. It's not the throws we counter, it's the thing it finds. So ignore me there. Seek the Beast, red and a colourless. Okay, I don't mind having some mana sources. Place Bauble out. Let's see the top card of our library. See if we want to fetch or not. Daze. Okay, we want to keep that. So we're going to draw the Daze, which means we're not deploying this Questing Druid. But we probably are going to Wasteland our opponent off of the Hickory Woodlot. So this turn we get the Daze. So we have quite a lot of protection. Next turn we can make a 1/1. Flooded Strand. Alright, let's go and get ourselves this Tropical Island. Play this guy. We have a lot of counter magic, so I'm hoping that we can stave them off. We can always counter the first creative technique and then extract it with the triggers on the stack for the other cascade, so it won't hit into a creative technique. They can go instant speed to play around Force of Negation sometimes, which is a little bit of a pain for us. Okay, let's start with a Brainstorm. Grow our little friend. A Bauble. Some more interaction, I guess. Murktide Regent is the least exciting thing here, as is the Bauble. Play this, we'll crack this for a red source. We're just trying to grow our Questing Druid here. We're just cycling into more blue cards, basically. Brainstorm is another blue card, so I'll keep that in hand. Triple Force is probably going to be enough to be good here. Alright, they're demonstrating. So we get a copy. So let's see what our copy finds first. A Daze. We would like to Daze this middle copy. We might be able to just cleanly answer all of these now. Alright, they're doing it to play around double Daze. Tibot's Trickery, targeting creative technique. Alright, so we would like to cast a Force of Will, targeting their original copy of Creative Technique. And we will exile Murktide Regent. I think there might be some more fighting in this game still. And our guy's going to be pretty large anyway. So get rid of the original Creative Technique. Then we will surgically extract Creative Technique. So now this is targeting the Creative Technique. So all we have to do is counterspell this Creative Technique and this will fizzle. Just doesn't have any targets. Alright, and the dust settles and we have a massive friend. And we know our opponent's hand doesn't really go anywhere. So let's play this Delver. After this Brainstorm. More things that do things. Alright, let's put these back. Play this. So we go on top of their library. Maelstrom Wanderer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This comes in tapped. 6, 7. This comes in tapped. Okay, so don't need to do that just yet. So they don't have any way of winning the game. If I've done my maths here. We know the top card of their library. We know what's in their hand. They can't put Maelstrom Wanderer on the stack. Yep, okay. We have lethal damage. Okay, so that felt pretty good with all these counter spells. Let's just roll back in again. also have Blood Moon, which shuts off all of their dual lands. Or their soul lands, sorry. So they can't ever get... Well, they can get up to enough mana, to be fair. But it takes them a long time, and hopefully we get to win the game before then. We have a counter spell. We have some pressure. I think this is acceptable, but we're going to try and use our channelers to find a little bit more juice. Try and draw 4 Wastelands. That'll make me relatively happy. Let's go and get our Volcanic. Play our little friend. So our opponent could go off next turn with the Throes of Chaos. So we're somewhat incentivized to fire out these baubles now. I do kind of want another land, but I also kind of want some more counter spells. I'm going to put this into our graveyard. This one's on top of our library and see if we want to mill it or draw it. A Daze. I would like to draw that. Put this on top of our library. And then we can use this with the Daze to sculpt the next turn if that's the thing that happens. Otherwise, we can leave this in play for the purpose of Delver Secrets. Trumpeting Carnosaur. They would like to deal some damage to our little friend. This is an ability, so we don't get to interact with this one. Fair enough. A Wasteland. Happy to see my friend Wasteland. Take out the red mana. And away we go. He can keep tapping his Ancient Tomb and deal themselves damage. Another Sandstone Needle, sure. Let's make this. Attack for 1. And then we'll do the Bauble trick on our opponent's turn so we can have more chance of flipping our Delver. But we see what interaction happens first. Right, so this is Creative Technique mana. Violent Outburst, you say. Tybalt's Trickery, you say. The question is, if we hit the Violent Outburst, the Tybalt's Trickery will fizzle. And then it will be in the graveyard for Surgical Extraction, so it's better to hit this. Question is, what are we pitching? I think it's the Murktide. We'll put this into our graveyard. Doesn't flip Delver, and it works towards our Channeler. There you go. It doesn't have any targets. And then step we will have a look at the top card of our library. It's a Force of Will. Okay, we reveal that Force of Will to our opponents. So we want to put the Bauble on the bottom this time. Okay, Delver's a pretty good draw. Let's play our guy. More pressure. So they tap their Ancient Tomb, we might be able to kill them next turn. We have 2 pieces of interaction. So if they don't have any more mana, we might be able to counterspell both copies of the Creative Technique if that's what they have. If we get another turn, we can ponder looking for Wasteland to try and stop them from killing us, because we're not going to be able to kill them if they don't tap this Ancient Tomb. Alright, it doesn't look like our Daze is going to help very much here. A Trumpeting Carnosaur. So this has to come into play to do its thing. So I will hit this. I'm going to keep this Daze now that I don't have a lot of mana. Alright, game over. So, again, a combo deck where we can apply pressure and disrupt them on 2 important axes. Alright, we are 2-2. Let's see if we can get the 3-2 in the final round. Alright, our opener is kind of an odd one. We have this Channeler, but we don't really have the best things to follow up with. But we are on the draw. So that's 2 shots at drawing land or ponder. I think we keep this, but it is a little risky. I do like having access to Lightning Bolt though. Ponder off of a basic island fetched with a Misty Rainforest. Interesting. This could be a whole host of different decks. Could even be a mirror. Alright, we drew the land. I'm now pretty chilled with how our hand is set up. Play Your Friend of Mine, Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we could do something like a Bowmasters here. Then we jam this Counterbalance though. We get some value off the Channeler. Right, a Brainstorm. Okay, so no Bowmaster. So our Channeler is more likely to live. Could still be a mirror. Right, they're shuffling away the Brainstorm. A Plains. Okay, so we're looking at a control deck most likely. Right. I would like to keep this Ponder on top of my library, please. Do we get to have a... Okay, so we have 1 drop to counter for a turn with the Counterbalance, and then we can Ponder next turn. We kind of want to float 1s on top as much as possible to stop removal. It's going to be 4 Theolingus for 1. That's going to be pretty good. There it is. So we're probably looking at blue-white splashing red control. Just the basic start is speaking to me. So it's going to take us a while to get this Monarch. Alright, let's ponder. We're looking for a threat, please. 2 threats, you say? I will take a friendly little Dragon's Race channel here. So we at least have a shot at taking the Monarch back soon. We have one floating on top so we can counterspell Source to Plowshares. Okay, maybe we're more colours than I first thought. Our opponent could just be like, okay, well this has to happen. At least we have an answer for this on the backside. So we could be like a Beanstalk control. We could just be like old school hot band. Leyline Binding. Or a Beanstalk. We know the top card of our library doesn't count a Beanstalk, so this is a no. Our opponents should handily win this game from this point on. Like, they've got a lot of extra resources. Like, we can stop the Euro once, but once isn't really going to be enough. So we can bolt this out of the way. We can take our opponent off of red mana, if that's what we want. I don't think it is. So we can take our opponent off of a green mana, but we don't have a draw effect for this right now. Then put it into the graveyard. Force of Negation. We don't know what's on top. Let's have a look. Questing Druid. Okay. We put this into our graveyard. That's a creature. This will be the instant, so we can attack for 3 here. And I will. Right, so now we get the Monarch, which is pretty exciting. Let's shove a Delver of Secrets into play. Try and get more threats going. We have used the Pyroblast that we were kind of saving for the Euro, though. But we can go bigger than an Euro with a Murktide is the plan, and then just keep it protected using our Counterbalance. But we kind of needed to get the Monarch this turn, really. So it's just blue, blue, green, green, so it's going to be an Euro. Do I have any 3-drops in my deck? No. Do I want our opponent to know the next card we're drawing, or make them think that we have 3-drops in our deck? I think we say no. So now they know we're not running any main deck 3-drops, so they don't have to worry about Brazen Borrower. Interesting mind games there. We could have shown it to them and make them wonder about Borrower. I don't really want to have a channeler. Let's go into our graveyard. 1, 2, 3, 6. So this does need to be bigger. So we do need to Brainstorm first here. Okay, so we're going to put Delver on top so we can float that as an answer to Source to Plowshares. Go attack for 3 with the Channeler, because we're about to lose Delirium, so we're going to get that 3 damage in. Oh no, we're going to... I've stacked the things wrong because of the... We'll answer a Plow, but then we'll have the draw from the Monarch. So we won't have that card. That's kind of an awkward one. So if we know that's the case, I think we're supposed to pop this Bauble so we at least have more shots at drawing. Okay, Force of Negation on top. Understood. So there's only going to be a slight window. So they're going to Plow now. So our mistake might actually benefit us here. Do it. They're going to cast a Brainstorm. I don't actually care about this Brainstorm. So I'm going to say no. And then they're going to draw the cards of Brainstorm. Then they're going to try and Plow it. And then we're going to catch it with the Counterbalance. A Leyline Binding. So we know the top card of our library. We know it's bad. Is Murktide going to be better than a Delver here? I think so. And now we have a random thing on top of our library. It's not going to be good enough to hit. Maybe it hits here. Let's have a look. A Chain Lightning has worked. Okay. Then we draw this Chain Lightning. And who knows what the top card of our library is. They do have double red now, though, so this Chain Lightning can be fired back and kill our Delver. Are they attacking anyway? What's the 3 life worth to you? It can be 6 life. They can recast it. A Leyline Binding. We don't have 6-drops in our deck. So this is just going to work. I don't think we can win this game. I think it's better to use our time for the game. Our opponent's set up enough there. I don't think we're winning that one. So I'd rather have the time to play the other games. Pyroblast is good here. Blood Moon is very good here. Counterbalance did not feel as good as I wanted it to. Like, countering 1-drops is nice though, but Sage Extraction on Uro and potentially Loam is something I'm interested in. I think we want to Force of Negation here, although there are definitely some things that are Force of Negation worthy from our opponent. But if we're boarding in Pyroblasts, they don't hit some of the problem cards. This is tough. I think we need Chain of Lightning. We're probably not going to need Lightning Bolts. We're not really looking at removal. So they can go. Like Pyroblast is going to be our removal a lot of the time. How much do you want these surgicals and counterbalances? This is 60. If we want to make room for these, we're going to have to cut something. We want Questing Druid, that's card advantage. I think we probably need Daze. The Wasteland line here is a good way of impacting our opponent. Portent, you can probably trim that for a counterbalance. It's just an annoying thing our opponent has to play underneath. If we want to fit in surgical extractions, how do we do that? I don't know if we can on the play, but that does put us at the mercy of Uro in a big way. Maybe we trim a Bauble for one and a Daze for the other. Like, Uro is going to be difficult for us to beat. I guess Blood Moon is kind of our answer to Uro, but Leyline Binding gets a little bit more tricky to answer that. Okay, we'll keep this. I don't really want the surgical in our opener. Right, let's crack this for a Volcanic. Play ourselves a Delver of Secrets. Good old-fashioned Delver of Secrets. I would rather be on the control side of this matchup, for sure. Although Blood Moon is a big haymaker, the sort of thing you need, really, to try and have a chance in this matchup. So I don't think we're going to pop a Brainstorm here to try and flip this. We'll reveal this Pyroblast, though. Go attacks. We're brainstorming, looking for a land here. Did not find a land. That is some dark news right there. So I guess we're putting Blood Moon and Brainstorm on top. I don't think I'm going to surgical myself to draw out of this, but certainly a possibility. All right, let's put this Brainstorm on top, so then we can at least have another look next turn. I guess we're probably pondering, actually. Carpet of Flowers. That's a terrible, terrible piece of news for us. I guess at least we're missing land drops, right? That's something. But this just completely breaks the parity of land drops and just lets our opponent get to their bigger mid to late game a lot earlier. So, yeah, not feeling like this is going to go our way. They're also now fully aware that we're Brainstorm locked, so they might be incentivized to counter a Ponder next turn. We do still have a threat in play, though, so it's not nothing. Let's Ponder. Any order and shuffle, please. Did not hit a land this time either. I think that's probably going to be it. Our opponent's probably going to be several land drops ahead of us now with the carpet. And right, Terminus goes away. Carpet, and I'm expecting an Uro this turn as well, which is going to accelerate them out further. The one thing going for us now is they don't have a card advantage engine, and we can at least shut off Uro as a card advantage engine. So there is that. But yeah, we are not great here. Swords to Plowshares. Interesting they didn't go for the Terminus. So what you do is you put the Terminus on the stack, then you crack your land because the card's already in your hand then. They decided they'd rather keep a Terminus and just plow our guy. So I don't know really what that means for us. Oh dear. Well, let's see how bad the damage is. Are we Brainstorm locked here? No. Hallelujah. So we don't want to Bauble. That's pretty low impact. Do I think Daze is going to do anything here? Not convinced that Daze is going to do us a great deal of good. And it's going to be a very easy one for them to play around. Alright, let's play a puny Delver of Secrets. So our opponent's on like a Bant Beanstalk deck. Or like, you know, Bant Splash Red. And this deck has fallen out of favour a lot because it gets absolutely slaughtered by the Bug Beans deck, which also has very similar matchups across the board to other stuff that Bant Beans has. So it kind of doesn't really feel necessary. Like, it does have white removal, which is obviously, you know, good. But this deck has taken a big hit. So it's a bit unfortunate that we're playing against it. But Bug Beans is probably not great for us either. So, although they don't have as clean answers to Murktide as this deck does. Yep. There's the Beanstalk. Pretty sure we've lost this one, but another Carpet. Wowzers. Alright, so they can just go their next main phase. Have all the mana in the world. They've got an Uro, they can play front and back side this turn. Because the trigger will give them additional... Right, no, they've already used the first Carpet. Okay. 1, 2, 3 mana. And Endurance. Okay. It's going to make it harder for us to cast a Murktide, which is definitely one of the ways that we could try and win this game. Oakley dokley. Okay, I think the play here... This Wasteland doesn't feel good. We could Wasteland our own stuff, but that doesn't feel good either. Let's try Counterbalance. That might be the sort of thing that can get us there. So on the one hand, it's like, oh yeah, we could take this out. But then they've still got 4 mana from these carpets. That's still 6 mana on their turn. This does put a card into our graveyard though. So we can start building that up again. Oh dear. I don't like it. It could provide 1 mana for casting Seek the Beast by keeping a Wasteland around. So maybe that is slightly better. But we'll probably Seek the Beast holding up Pyroblast next turn. Our plan now is to try and deal with the big important things. Lots of white mana over there. Leyline Binding. We don't have 6 drops, so this is going to be a no from us. Yeah, this matchup feels a lot worse for us than Bug Beans, I think. The clean white removal is just so strong. And they're probably going to have a little bash here with the Endurance. Nope. I guess they're on 11. They're being a bit cautious. We'll not reveal this card that doesn't do anything we need it to. I guess I'll play a Drop Out. And then I'll pass, and we're going to do some Questing Druid stuff in our opponent's turn. This does give our opponent more mana, but it allows us to play Pyroblast. We're not really caring about the overall amount of mana that's going on right now. We're just caring about trying to stop the big plays. Because we can't really take our opponent off of mana with these carpets in play. Now, if we have a Blood Moon, then all of our lands become mountains. Apart from the 1 island we fetch, but then they still get some colours off of the carpet. Right, 6 blue, so we're going to see some amount of cantrips and possibly Uros this turn. Oh no, we're just going to see the Lorien revealed, sure. No, they don't have any green mana yet, so we just went all for the blue. A Savannah. And on the Beanstalk, yep. We are getting buried. Our opponent has a full grip. Most of their spells draw them 2 cards. I'm happy to scoot this one up. Like, we could have cast the Questing Druid at end of turn, but I don't know how we're beating 7 cards where all of their cards draw them 2 extra ones. I did not feel like we had any sort of recourse to actually playing that game. Alright, let's talk about this deck. We finished with a 2-3, which is obviously not a great record. So let's talk about the deck. So I think this deck is totally fine. I think what you have to also realise is a deck in like a Legacy Showcase Challenge is going to be a different field to playing a league like we were doing today. So where this Pyroblast maybe didn't look amazing, it would have been better potentially in a field where you know that like a huge amount of like people are going to be playing Bug Beans and stuff like that, because that's the most played deck at the moment right now. So you've got Bug Beans, and then you've got varying tempo decks of like blue black, Grixis and Rug, or blue red, splashing green like we are here. Those are kind of like the big things. So the Pyroblast is going to be good in that meta, whereas if you're playing against like the Cascade combo deck or goblins, stuff like that, the Pyroblast is going to feel less useful. Also, when you're in a meta where Bug Beans is going to be the big sort of control-y deck, Pyroblast is going to look better than it is going into the Hot Bant style decks, where the best thing Pyroblast is doing is killing an Uro, which is fine, but it's not really stopping their removal or their engines or anything. So, not superb. Also, Counterbalance lines up far worse against the Bantstalk decks than it does against Bugstalk, because the Bugstalk deck has a lot of the same cards we do. You know, they've got all the cantrips still, but then they've got Murktides, they've got the Force of Wills as well, so we can hit those. And we've got Daze to hit their Orcish Bowmaster, so you can kind of just shut them out in a lot of ways. Like, Counterbalance on 2 is very good against the Bugstalk deck, but against Bantstalk, they've got 6-drop removal spells that we just can't interact with using Counterbalance, which is kind of a thing I find with Counterbalance. I don't really like it in leagues. I think it is better in like the more competitive, well, when it's good, I think it's good in the more competitive tournaments where you know field a little bit more, and it's not going to be quite as diverse as it is in league, where you could, you know, we could play against anything. So I think part of this is some of the metagaming on this has made it not feel so good for us, but it would have been better in other situations. Obviously, you know, they split the final of the challenge. I'm not really sure that we should be expecting lots of Pyroblast in the main right now. It felt fine, but I think there are other tools available that also feel fine or better than fine. I do still like having a Brazen Borrower in decks like this. I think it's just a nice little catch-all to some stuff that can really jam you up. But yeah, this deck's fine. You know, it's doing Delvery things. We had a few awkward mulligans, getting Brainstorm locked, like on that last game. So things didn't quite go to plan for us, but I've played Delver many times on channel, and like the core shell of Delver is obviously very strong, and it has game into everything, because if you just have the full Delvering right from the off, you can beat most things with that if you just have it running nicely. So there's always room for Delver. I do like the ability to have these Blood Moons as a nice big haymaker, which you do get by playing the basic. We did have to mulligan because of the basic in one of the rounds as well, though. So, you know, it gives and takes. But if you're expecting decks where the Blood Moon is going to do a lot of work, then I can certainly see why you would want to pay the opportunity cost of having a basic in your deck. Also, for the purposes of the initiative, it's nice to have a basic to go and fetch you, at least to get a little bit of value on the first room. So I can see the attraction, especially since this deck is basically blue-red. Like, maybe we fetched a Tropical Island once. Like, we're not really trying to cast the backside of this. It's just a little bit of extra bonus that we can sometimes have. As for the sideboard, I think I would have liked to have had some Hydroblasts. But again, this deck is metagamed quite a lot, so it's going into more Bug Beans rather than the Bandstalk decks, which can have things like the Minsk and Boo and the 4th Eolingus, which are good targets in a control deck for your Hydroblast, which also means it has more value in the other matches like the Mono Red and the Goblins, stuff like that. So overall, I think this exact deck list is probably not where you want to be going forward, but it was obviously the right place for the tournament. That for me, when I'm recording this, it was a tournament that took place last night. So I definitely consider probably these 3 slots. Move these out of the way. These 3 slots are relatively flexible. I guess the Portent as well is potentially flexible in this sort of shell. You can also just cut the Questing Druids entirely and go straight blue-red. That's certainly an option that you can do. But I think if you do that, if you cut these 2 Questing Druids, you get to cut the Tropical Island and run a Mystic Sanctuary. But Mystic Sanctuary, obviously, if you have that in your opener, it's not where you necessarily want to be as well. But I think when you're looking at this sort of Delver, this is kind of the bit where you get to play with it. This is like the core now, and I don't think this is going to change for a while in these sort of blue-red style decks. I guess you could trim a Murktide as well, but this is sort of like your area to play with. Do you want some more Questing Druids? Do you want like Unholy Heat in the main? Do you want Spell Pierce in the main? You know, there's different options. Some people running like single or 2 Stifles as well. There's definitely a lot you can do here. And sideboard-wise, like I said, it's pretty honed in. I think the tools you do want, obviously because of this build and the basic, you definitely want the Blood Moons and the Meltdown. You want Graveyard Hate. You're going to want some amount of things like Force and maybe some more removal and Pyroblasts. And the Submerge is a concession to not having Brazen Borrower in the main deck. So at least you have an out to Marit Lage. But yeah, it's a Delver deck. It's a very good deck. But I think it's a reasonable example of not necessarily should you just go and take the deck that won the most recent tournament and just play that. I think you should understand why the choices were made and see if you want to make those same choices. Maybe you do. Maybe that's fine. Like if you're playing a big competitive tournament the weekend, you might want to think, okay, so these are the decks that are doing this and this and this. So it's still in the same sort of spot, so I want to play here. Or do you think people are going to build on from this and we're going to see more white dedicated removal decks that become a little bit more awkward with some of these choices? But obviously the Blood Moon is still going to be good in those matchups too. So yeah, I think I've covered this one fair enough. So well done to Baku91 for splitting the finals of the Legacy Showcase Challenge. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know there's a lot of people out there who love watching Delver content. I enjoy playing Delver. I am at heart more of a Canadian Threshold style Delver player, but I do like being able to make a lot of decisions and things. Playing blue decks is good. Alright, once again, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. It really means a lot. Remember to like and subscribe. It really does help. And goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.